So I finally made it. Here I am at Joel Salatin's famous high property. This is where, if you read his books, you look at the covers, you see the videos, everything since, I guess, the 90s or whenever he started doing all that stuff. This is where it was. But basically today I'm over at Joel Salatin's farm out in Stanton, Virginia, outside of there. Figured I'd walk around. I had something to talk to him about, so I decided I was going to mail him a letter, and then all of a sudden I realized that mail is probably going to take 2 weeks, so I decided to drive here. And so I'm out here in Stanton. I'm checking out. He's got some grapes, some goats, had some pawpaw trees behind me. Yeah, come along with me. I'll be doing some exploring. These guys are in here. They're looking for some more food. We got to feed them. There you go. Oh man, these boys are hungry. Or girls. Whatever. Oh yeah, eat it up, eat it up. Yeah. So behind me we've got a pond. On this side we've got some more black walnut trees, which are cool. They just kind of grow in the area, which is nice. Over in here I'm gonna have to see what kind of tree that is. That looks pretty cool. But behind me we've got a pawpaw. So a lot of people are wondering, can you grow pawpaws in colder environments when you get closer to the mountains? I think right here we're about maybe 1,800 feet, give or take, something like that. Oh, getting a little sideways. But back there is a mature pawpaw tree. It's going to be bearing some fruit. Really good thing to have around. So over in this area here, it looks like the whole one of their cabins or houses is surrounded by comfrey, which is another medicinal herb, which I think is super cool. Yeah, what a place. So right now I'm just walking down the road. They actually have an open farm policy, so as long as you just let the people work and do their jobs, you can walk around respectfully and, you know, just kind of check the place out. So I was just checking out some of the animals. I'm heading up to the cow pastures right now, and once again, carrying the shoes with me, no shoes on. But it's cool that they have an open farm policy. My buddy actually has a farm. They got about 200 acres on the other side of this mountain, and they do a lot of pigs and cows and all that good stuff. But hey, more walnuts and also pokeberries. These ones here, I've yet to eat them, but a lot of people in the mountains put a couple of them on their mouth each day, crush them with their tongue, don't chew the seeds, and then they use it for their immune system. But what I was saying before is, every time I come to a place like this, you know, out in the woods, out in the country, nice open pasture, full of fruit trees and berries and animals, it makes me not want to leave. I come out here and I do not want to go home. I just want to embrace it all. I want to live out here. So that's what I'm trying to put it into fruition. Some people say manifest, some people don't. Whatever it is, I'm just trying to figure out a different way of life, because this reminds me of a way of life that used to be really rewarding and still is for the people who are here. So I'm trying to get some of that for myself and then be able to share that, the physical fruits of labor, which would be fruits, meat, eggs, milk, and also just the excitement and the joy that it all brings. And I want to invite my friends over for a bonfire and get to know the local people and just kind of create a paradise similar to this. So I've got my phone hanging from a branch right now to be used as a camera, and what I was thinking as I walk through this huge farm is how good it is for the soul to be able to look in any direction and be able to walk there. You know, granted, anywhere you look, you own it. It's incredible. And from a tax map, it looks like it's this skinny, long piece of land. You're like, oh, that's kind of an odd shape. But then you get here and it's, I don't know, 600 acres? I could be wrong. But the land is actually so big, it doesn't feel like you're, you know what I'm saying? So it's just so cool. This is how things used to be. You know, before there was, like, I guess, private land, you could just go places. But this is the next best thing. Now that we do have land that you have to buy, is being able to look and, oh yeah, I own that. I can go over there. I can go pick those berries. I can go walk around, you know, in that field. And I just think that's pretty cool. But I believe, as I was reading Joel's book, he was telling us about how his parents, they went to Venezuela I believe, and they thought it was like the next frontier in South America, Central America. And they went over there, and the government ended up taking their land, and then they came back here, and then they used their last money to buy this 500-600 acres, whatever it is. And I just think that's incredible, because they got it in the 60s when land was way cheap compared to this. I don't know what the price was, but you know, compared to, I mean, land prices have tripled around here since just a couple years, since 2020, really. They've tripled. And all that to say, if you see a piece, you should probably buy it now, because it's probably only going to go up. You know, maybe it'll go down for 5 years and there's a crash, etc., etc. But eventually, it always will go up. There's a demand for it. Even if people aren't buying houses, people are going and buying land, especially unrestricted land. And they're putting tiny houses on them. They're putting sheds. They're camping in bell tents and yurts. They're coming out places like here, trying to get a better quality of life. So I'm gonna keep walking around, keep contemplating, keep thinking, trying to find some cool spots. I met one of the girls that works here. I bought some chickens. They call them broilers. They call chickens broilers. And yeah, I got some whole ones. Apparently, once you taste the taste of real, not factory farm chicken, you can't go back. So that's what I'm hoping for. Another thing I learned while being out in the country is assume every fence is electric. Learned that one the hard way quite a few times. So that plant that I just showed you in the previous clip is actually called mullinin. Mullinin. Anyways, there's another like cousin plant called lamb's ear. The reason that they call it that is because the leaves of it are very fluffy and soft, apparently like a lamb's ear. So the reason why this is growing here is because this area is a little bit dry and dusty. It's kind of on uphill side of the hill. I don't think they're doing a whole lot of grazing here. But what I learned about this is once again, nature puts the cure and maybe the problem or the sickness in the area. So the problem is that the area is kind of dusty, and this likes to grow in areas that are dusty. So that is why it is here. Since it likes dusty areas, what happens when you're in the dust? You're getting it in your lungs, in your mouth, you're coughing, you might have some issues. So what the Native Americans used to do is get this stuff, roll it up, smoke it, and it would actually help expel all of the mucus and the dust and the grime out of their lungs. So I think that's pretty cool that, hey, it's a dry, dusty area. You're gonna have some stuff in your lungs. If you're there all the time, this is put here, it grows in that area just for you to be able to do that. So another cool hack, little tip, lamb's ear, mullinin, also good for earaches. I've used it before, garlic and mullein as a like an oil extract, and you got a ear infection, pop it in there, you'd be good to go. So another cool tree on the property is this right here. It's a honey locust. You can identify it because it actually is the thorns coming out of the side. But this is also native to Virginia and the southeast area, all that stuff, pretty much all over around here. That's how you can identify it, especially with the spikes on it. But the purpose for this is nitrogen fixing. It actually takes the nitrogen from the air, I believe, and then makes it bioavailable for all the surrounding plants. So those come up naturally. Once again, it kind of works in synchronicity with everything else. And you can also plant them next to your fruit trees in your orchard and then just do a chop and drop. Actually, these won't decompose because it's a really, really hard wood, but you can chop it and burn it, whatever. And just to keep it small so it doesn't become this big thing that shades out your apple tree. But that being there is going to add a bunch of nitrogen to your soil, which is free fertilizer. No need to spray pesticides when you have that. Another big black walnut tree native to the area. They just come up. The walnuts that you guys usually get in the stores are English walnuts. This is a black walnut. If you take the hull off, once again, parasite, tincture. Also, it's really good for dye. My hand's still a little bit colored golden bronze black from cracking those the other day in the driveway with a hammer and some pliers. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get them. That's why I guess not many people are picking them and stuff. But if you do get them, they're really good for you. I haven't been eating a whole lot of nuts in general just because they do have all those defense chemicals in them, so you don't eat them. So it might upset some people's stomachs, but if you can eat peanuts, you can eat these. But if you are worried about it, I found a recipe for like boiling them so it takes all the tannins out so that they're easier to digest. So just a pro tip there. I don't want to blindly tell everybody to eat nuts, but if you're eating nuts already, you're fine. Some people like me, I had some stomach problems and then I decided not to eat as many, start eating ground beef every day. I've had red meat every day for the past like year and a half. I feel great. Working on feeling even better. It helped me out a lot. So if you have issues with that, the not even just the carnivore diet, but animal based is what they call it, I think. So I eat a lot of meat every day. Eat a lot of fruit, honey, raw milk, raw cheese, berries, etc., etc. So as I'm walking by this right here, I notice this is all pasture. All of a sudden the grass gets a little bit taller and then you have a different species of trees. So if you're ever trying to identify where water is on the property, a big thing you can do is one, look for where the grass isn't being cut, where it's kind of swampy, boggy, marshy. And then two is look for willow oaks, which are right here, and sycamores. It said that sycamores suck up to 600 gallons a day, which is absolutely crazy. Apparently it's true. Anyways, but you're looking for like weeping willows, willow oaks, and sycamores. This has both of them, and it makes sense why the area is fenced in. They don't want the cows in there. So there you go. After this, be heading up to the high property, which is where everyone sees on the cover of Joel Salatin's books and the videos and all that kind of stuff. That's where the view is. So I'm making my way up there. I found it from the bushes. I looked and I said, oh, that's it. That's where the chicken tractors are. So we're heading up that way now. So coming up on this way, heading to the high property, looks like they planted a bunch of trees. What are they, you ask? Well, it kind of looks like a cherry from here. I keep going between New Jersey and Southern Virginia. That done looks like a cherry right there, but I was born in the North, spent my life in the South. It's always a good mix. But they planted all these. I think it's really cool. They call this Silvopasture. And what Silvopasture is where you mix grasses and trees. And the trees grow up, provide nuts, nitrogen, fruit, berries, whatever. They also make shade. So some of these cool season grasses like fescue can live. So what I was saying before is the trees shading out the areas create a silvopasture, which produces shade, which makes the cool season grasses stay cooler in the summertime. So they don't all burn out in July and August. They can stay green because of the shade, therefore creating more grass to eat, a more productive pasture. And then if it's a honey locust, it fixes nitrogen, makes it grow better. If it's an oak tree, it produces nuts. If it's a walnut, it produces nuts. If it produces berries, you have berries. Pretty self-explanatory. But here I am walking through the property. Absolutely beautiful. So I finally made it. Here I am at Joel Salatin's famous high property. This is where, if you read his books, you look at the covers, you see the videos, everything since, I guess, the 90s or whenever he started doing all that stuff. This is where it was. I was wondering. I was down below. I was like, oh, this looks different than the pictures. But yeah, look at that. Got the chicken tractors. We've got some cows over that way. I'm going to check out that area. It's crazy. This is what everyone's been waiting for. Super cool. Wow. So coming up this way, that's West Virginia over those mountains. Absolutely beautiful. And this is what, I mean, the chicken tractors. I believe Joel came up with these things. It's amazing how he got this idea. And what they do is hey guys, wow. So basically what they do with these chicken tractors is, they move them around the pasture. The idea is that this is regenerative agriculture, so instead of tilling, spraying, manipulating the land to where every year it gets worse, they do everything opposite. When they bought the land, they decided, hey, let's talk to the ag agency, let's talk to USDA, all these other people, and they gave him all this advice, and he said that's a quick way to go bankrupt. So he came in here, got this land, did everything the exact opposite. So what they do is they run the cattle, they put them in a tight group, and then they pretty much just like get them hungry, and then they just put them in a smaller area, so when they get to the grass, they don't selectively eat different things. They go in and just mob graze everything. That way they don't have to run through it with the mower as much. After I don't even think they do that at all. So that's a really cool way to do things. Oh, there's a guard dog behind us. That's so cool. So the guard dog will keep it away from the wolves and coyotes and all that stuff. So anyways, the chickens, they run them through and they take care of all the grass that the cows didn't eat, maybe the seed heads. But the big thing is they go around and eat all the grubs. So if people have issues with flies and stuff on their cows, they actually go through all the cow patties and they eat all the grubs and the maggots and all these little things that would turn into flies and pests and probably mosquitoes, whatever. They do it in water. But the chickens actually take care of all that stuff. So it's natural pest control. The chickens are getting fed for free. They already own the land. Don't have to feed them a bunch of grain. And yeah, so that's pretty much how they do it. So over there, that's a pump, and that hose comes from a spring, and there's a pond on the property. So Joel was talking about how he likes to, let me move this camera over a little bit, but he was talking about how he likes to dig ponds and fill them up and keep on going. So over there, some pine trees. Got the guard dog here, nice guy or gal, but look at that. So every day they move these just one little over, then all of a sudden they just went through the whole pasture, nice and maintained. Look at all those chickens. This is the way it should be. You see a chicken house and they're all getting diseased, and this is the way, I mean, as close as possible mimicking nature. You know, you're not going to be 100% because they'd be wild and getting eaten and stuff, but it's a cool way to do it. Hey, how's it going? Gotta have a guardian dog, make sure there's no coyotes. Hey, how you doing? Hey. Oh yeah, just rolling around in the mud. I wish I had some snacks for you. Oh man, this is so cool. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier, the last part of it, is that the chickens are fertilizing the soil. So it doesn't smell bad over here, even though there's all these chickens. If you ever go into, say, Page County, Shenandoah County, Virginia, where every time after it rains and they spread the chicken shit, it smells like absolute hell across the whole entire county because it's unnatural. They concentrated it all, then they sprayed it all in one spot and pretty much just covered the whole field. Here, it's little by little. It's not mixed with anything. They just do it right on the ground just like you would out in nature. And then it doesn't really smell that bad. I mean, it smells pretty good. So this line right here is where they moved the chickens or the cows, where the electric fence was. It looks like they cut it with a lawnmower. If you've ever seen a pasture that hasn't been mob grazed, or whatever the word they call it these days is, it looks, you have a bunch of things sticking up and different weeds and this and that, and it looks like they get all the good stuff, you know, they get all the steak and then they leave all of the get all the steak and they leave the salad. Or, you know, cows are just eating grass, that's why they got 4 stomachs. But it's such a clean line, it looks like someone mowed it. They didn't. All they did was move them properly. You don't have to worry about, because if you don't do it this way, the cows are going to leave all the stuff they don't really prefer to eat, but a lot of times they need it for their stomachs, and they kind of like, you know, they're all herbalists. So anyways, it's good to eat everything. If you don't, the bad things are going to sprout up, go to seed. Since no one ate them, they're going to go to seed at the end of the season. You're going to have more of that, and you'll have less fescue and meadow grass and whatever the stuff that you do like, and you'll have more poison ivy or autumn olive or thistle, etc., etc. Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded. On another note, I still think it's absolutely wild that people bought land back in the day for such a cheap price. Granted, it was more risky then because people weren't moving. Now, people were out in the country back in the day. Then they said, oh, the jobs are in the cities. Everyone moved to the cities. And I guess, I don't know, 60s, 70s, back to the land movement, all that good stuff where the hippies were. But before all that, like you didn't have online work. So if you lived out in the country, you had to be a farmer. Before the powers that shouldn't be made it really hard to do that. Continue to do so. You had to be a farmer, or you were like the one lawyer, one attorney, the one doctor, pharmacy, whatever in the town. Like, you know, a professional. There's not a whole lot in small towns. So for someone to do that, Joel's parents were his dad was an accountant. Not sure what his mom did, but now everyone's saying, oh, I can go on Zoom calls. We got to get out of the cities. There's my hair. Gotta get out of the cities. We gotta skedaddle. Now everyone wants to live here. Now land here in the Shenandoah Valley is like 25, 30 grand an acre, which is crazy. Whereas before it was like 5, not too long ago. And then back when they bought it, it was probably way less than that. I remember in Floyd County, Virginia, I was reading this book. It was talking about how someone went there, and I think it was the 70s or 80s, bought 100 acres with a house, 10 grand. Unheard of. Right now in Floyd, 25 acres is going for like 200,000, 250, sometimes more, of pasture. And yeah, so that's me just talking while I walk. Beautiful behind me. Another thing I thought was cool is that Ty Lopez, this was like his first mentor. It's cool making the connection between like a regular business guy who's into like selling courses and traveling the world in London, and he apparently got his roots from a little shack over there that I had in the beginning of the video with all the comfort around it. So yeah, it's crazy out here. It's really good. Let me know in the comments if you like it, if you think this is cool, if you want to see more of this content, if you want to see less of the content, if you want to see shorter videos. My shorts seem to do better, and I can just do less talking. You know, not everyone wants to just look at some guy talking. I can always point it in the other direction and just have it like this. But I figured it'd be a little bit more cool to do it this way. You have some brown locks to look at. So I think I'm gonna start heading back down. I'm gonna look for some land for sale. Gonna try to connect with some people out there. Maybe some old farmers want to sell off some of their land. Know that someone's gonna treat it right. That person's me. So that's who I'm looking to meet. Another thought I had is how people who live out this way, who grew up in this area, generations, they've been here forever. They look at this, like just this little piece of land, or little part of the land that's on the video. They're like, that's so small, what are you gonna do with that? And me, coming from the suburbs, I see 10 acres. And I'm ecstatic. I'm like, this is crazy. I can plant so many trees here. I can finally have some animals. I can put a cabin here. You know, I grew up on a 1/4 acre. I mean, this is like the biggest place ever. Just like what's in view. You know, if this was 10 acres, probably a little bit more. But they're like, oh, that's not worth anything. They're used to having like these huge estates. Like up there, all those mountains are owned by Joel and his family. Incredible. They're used to this stuff. Sure, some of them, that Joel probably doesn't take it for granted because he's making a living from it. But these people, they're like, oh my gosh, 10 acres, you can't do shit. I'm like, 10 acres? This is so cool. So, as I ramble on, I wish I had a family with 600 acres. But, as the sticker on my truck says, don't wish for it, work for it. So instead of wishing I had 600 acres, I'm just gonna start off with 10 and work my way there. So when I'm searching for land, I'm always wondering if I'm just gonna, I don't have millions of dollars right now. If I'm going to get land, do I want low-lying land with a creek? Do I want a mountaintop meadow where I can be above it all, have a great view, hope for a spring on the property? And that's a trade-off I don't want to make. I will. I won't always. But back when people had these big estates and big farms, you'd look around and they would own so much that you'd have the low-lying area, probably with a river going through it or a creek. You'd have the high areas with the mountaintops. You'd have just the straight open pasture. You'd have the woods. Once again, closer to the way that everything was out in the wild. It's kind of weird to have things in isolation. Only have trees. Only have pasture. Only have walnuts. I'm looking at, I think, an apple tree right now. Super cool, you'd have every type of land has different uses. The high areas, you got the views, you got the wind, you do your Airbnb rentals up there. It's just cool. It's nice. The low areas are probably going to hold on to more topsoil, more moisture, because it comes down from the top areas and goes to the bottom. And over time, the topsoil runs off if you have your grass too short or you overgraze it or etc., etc. All of a sudden, your soil starts depleting and rolling downhill. They call it erosion. Oh yeah. So those are my thoughts of the day. Tell me if you liked the video. It's probably not over yet. I might go say hi to the goats so they can nibble on my fingers again. They were pretty cute. And tour Joel Salatin's farm. Joel, I hope to meet you. I wrote you, I knew you'd be busy, so I wrote a letter. I gave it to one of the girls working in the freezer section. I bought some chickens. So if you see this, Joel, I'd love to do a interview podcast or just something like that. I know I only have 30 followers. I started my YouTube a week ago. But you live an hour from me. Hour and a half. May as well. Anyways, I'm going to cut that short and keep walking and all that good stuff. Got some walnuts. Going to put the phone down and enjoy the rest of the day. Just teeming with life. So it looks like over in this area, Joel's got himself a nice sawmill. I say portable, but it's not on a trailer. That is so cool. So you can walk around and get a tree and make your own lumber. It smells delicious. It really does. This is the coolest thing. So once you get a farm, you be more self-sustaining and end up happier. Hey y'all, back in town now, back at home. If you like the video, share it. If you don't like it, don't share it. If you like it, send a like. If you hate it, tell me about it, all right? I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to make these good videos. If there's anyone you want to see in the future, let me know and I'll try to get over to their farm. If you know someone personally and you want me to do a farm tour of their farm and kind of show their area and all the stuff that they got going on, just let me know. I plan on doing a lot more videos like this if that's what you want. I know a lot of the short form content does pretty well. Just trying to do some more longer stuff. So anyways, just let me know what you want to see. Share it, helps the algorithm, all that good stuff. But yeah, if you don't want to, definitely don't do it. Over and out.